got it. Yeah.
I hadn't forgotten, Arlindo. I was just waiting for you.
Okay. So now we're recording. Okay. So we're about to conclude our Tattvabodha. Tattvabodha is a non-commentary kind of text organized in a simple way, but covering most of the teachings of Vedanta, of the Upanishads. Now he pulled all the parts of the Upanishads and comprised in something which is officially considered to be the introductory manual of Vedanta. So it's a text that presents the introductory themes or introductory topics exposed in the Upanishad text. So we have been cruising whenever possible through this text in the past several months. And now today, I hope we're gonna have our last session, because it's we don't have much left, but we need to keep moving. So lately we covered Maya, Ishvara, the 5 elements, and how the elements, they combine, they subdivide, they divide and combine to create the physical material universe of objects. So we covered that part of Maya, Ishvara, and the elements. And the last part now, the one that we will cover today, is relate to the Jivanmukta. So it begins, it's in the very end of the text, it begins with what is a self-realized person. Claudio, I'm sorry, I could have sent this text to you, but I forgot it.
No problem.
Yeah. So
I think I already found it on internet. So
yeah. Okay.
I think it is this. Okay.
Okay. You're smart. So every Vedanta text we have again and again, it shows like, so how is it to be self-realized? So what are the benefits? How do the yoni experience itself and the life around himself or herself? So what are the benefits of self-knowledge and moksha? Why do we call it moksha? No, it's from what and what for? Huh? And so on. So every text we present the benefits of self-knowledge and what is the byproduct of self-knowledge, meaning to say moksha, freedom, and why it is said to be in the scriptures as the ultimate goal of the human life, or the evolutionary process of life. It's the human being with a healthy body, a healthy mind, and the ability to introspect and contemplate into the nature of one's very consciousness until one makes this discrimination between his own existence, consciousness, and the mind and the intellect and all the world of objects, experience, and the intellect and the sense organs, of course. So that is the purpose. And that's what we're going to go into now. And that's why the end of all our texts is very juicy. They're juicy because they present to us what is just waiting for us. It's like, wow, that's our final destination. That's our goal. So let's have a flavor of it. Let's have a taste of it, knowing that it's just my nature, not yet fully recognized, appreciated, and embraced, but it's our very nature. So what is a self-realized person? It's often called Jivanmukta, okay, where Jiva with Mukta, but it's also in our tradition, it's also often referred as a Jnani. Jnani is a Jiva, is an individual, who gained Jnana. Jnana is knowledge. So in Vedanta, when we talk about knowledge, we most of the time we refer to the knowledge in reference to the knower of all knowledge. In other words, we refer to knowledge as self-knowledge. So what is self-knowledge is the subject matter of this chapter. What is a self-realized person? What is self-knowledge? What is the condition of the Jivanmukta? And then Shankara says, a Jivanmukta or Jnani is someone who has, one, realized that the self is limitless. I'm reading from my cell phone. Realized that the self is limitless. Realized that the self and the world are not different. And number three, realize that the one who has this vision is the self. It's not a separate individual, so the so-called jiva, okay? So there is a lot to this description of the Jivanmukta. So let's begin by the number 3 point. It's someone who has the vision and is the one who has the vision. I'm sorry, it's better we don't begin there. It's better we begin by the number 1. Who has realized that the self is limitless. I do not want to begin by that because usually this self-recognition begins with the fact that, wow, I am not my mind, I am not my body, I am not my notions, I am not my emotions, I am nothing that I experience, you know. I am this pure, limitless consciousness. But in the beginning, we don't understand this word limitless. Usually self-knowledge happens by this recognition that I am the light of consciousness. Okay? So we know that I am the only consciousness there is, and I know that, that I am the only existence there is, and I'm something other than my mind and my body. So it's someone who has realized that the self and the world are not different. So the self and the world are not different means to say that I and everything and everyone out there is nothing but consciousness, because consciousness is all there is. So this usually is the first level of this recognition. I am consciousness, consciousness is all there is, and by the way, there's nothing special about that, because everything and everyone is but only consciousness, okay? And then it comes a second level of understanding that many times presents as the one-third enlightenment missing. I understand that I am consciousness, I understand that everything is consciousness, and everybody else is consciousness, but I don't understand that I, the self, am limitless, okay? So this acknowledgement, you know, and claiming my nature as ananta, as limitless, is a little bit more trick because of this tendency of, again, being back and forth from the identification with the body-mind construct and the identification with consciousness alone, okay? So this back and forth of identification makes it a little bit more difficult in the beginning for us to acknowledge, claim, and remain established in consciousness and free, limitless consciousness as consciousness, okay? So it takes some time until this knowledge is hard and fast, and the understanding of my limitless nature is fully acknowledged, okay? So if someone who has realized that the self is limitless, meaning to say that I am consciousness and my nature as consciousness is limitless. So it means to say that the sense of limitation, which is imposed by my due to this mistaken identification of myself with the body mind, that is taking care. It's taking care because what makes it happen, what takes care of that is a sort of a shift of identity from the body mind to consciousness alone. So I understand I am consciousness, and then somewhat on a second stage, I really fully appreciate and integrate the fact that, by the way, nothing can touch me because I am like space. I pervade everything. With one more thing on my advantage as consciousness, I am like space, all pervasive, but space pervades only me. I pervade Nitya and Satya, and I'm beyond, therefore, beyond time and space. So my nature is of all pervasiveness. Okay, that's what it means, limitless. There is only me appearing whenever Maya operates, appearing with this variety of names, colors, and forms. So I realized that the self is limitless, that the self and the world are not different. So when we realize that the self is limitless, what is left? We need to claim our identity as the self, as consciousness. Otherwise, I may realize like, wow, I realize that Brahman is limitless. No, a lot of people have this notion that Brahman is vast, is huge, it's big, and it's almost infinitely limitless. But if I see Brahman as something other than myself, I remain in duality. There is a sense that there is such a thing as the self, as Brahman, and Brahman, the self, is limitless. But I am somewhat the Jiva who has the knowledge of the limitless nature of Brahman. It does not free the Jiva. The only way to free the Jiva is the understanding that the self and the world is composed by Ishvara, Jiva, and the field, Jagat. So everything in the world is not apart from Brahman. Everything in the world is not separate or different from Brahman. So this is another stage of understanding that I know, like all there is Brahman, all there is consciousness. It appears as plurality of names and forms, but those are only superimpositions. Therefore, I understand that the nature of the self is limitlessness, and I understand that I am the self because my existence is not apart from consciousness, existence, Brahman, the self, howsoever we want to call it. Okay? So we have identified the self as limitlessness. We have claimed our identity with the self due to the fact that our existence is not apart from the self, since the nature of the self is limitlessness, one without a second. And therefore, I understand that, and Jivanmukta is that the one who knows that this vision is the self. It's not a separate individual. So here presents the self-realization or self-realized person as a vision, okay? Where it's one who has the vision that the self is limitless and the self and the world is not two different things. This person who has this is not really a person, it's the self who realized its own limitless nature. And why we emphasize that? Because a lot of the time the Jiva has a glimpse, has an experience or whatever, and that glimpse, that understanding, that experience does not cancel that piece of ignorance that allows the Jiva, the ego of the Jiva, claim enlightenment as a certain status, a certain position, or qualities of one's mind, and so on. So when that happens, it means that the individual did not understand that this knowledge is the self, understand its own true nature. Once the ignorance imposed by Maya is removed, okay? The self is always whole, full, and complete. It apparently emerged in media as jivas, the human jivas, and it feels to be separate and apart from the creation, from Ishvara, and from the substratum of the Ishvara. Okay? And once this understanding is clear, so the individual has to be definitely and properly resolved in awareness. As awareness, he knows that this understanding is awareness. It's awareness seeing the world through me. It's the awareness, consciousness, it's Brahman. It's when he says like the one who has this vision, it refers to knowledge. Is an angle, is a platform from which one lives one's life, based on knowledge. As I know, that everything there is consciousness, and this knowledge is not my knowledge, is the knowledge of the self, which was revealed by a certain agent called Ishvara, the Lord, to the individuals who were ready to receive these revelations. Okay, so this is the the bottom line of what those three statements of what is self-realization. So some commentaries, the idea of the self-realized enlightened person is actually contrary to the highest teachings of Vedanta. So the highest teaching of Vedanta is like there is no not self. The idea of Mithya, the idea of Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat, the world, of duality. All of that is not real. The only reality is consciousness. Okay? So this is the ultimate reality. Therefore, the very idea of enlightenment, the very idea of awakening, of self-realization is contrary, or the one, the enlightened one. This is a notion that we see so often in the spiritual world, So all these ideas are somehow contrary to the highest teachings of Vedanta. But we don't care for the highest teacher of Vedanta, because the highest teachings of Vedanta can do more harm than help the individual, because they are valid teachings only at certain stage in the process of one's development. If it's present beforehand, one may say, wow, this is the best shortcut I ever heard. Okay? That is, nothing is real. Mithya is not real. I am not real. You are not real. The teaching is not real. Ishvara is not real. All there is consciousness, and all of this is like a dream. So we hear these teachings over and over again on some sections of the Neo-Advaita market of teachers. But these teachings, they don't help much, although it's the ultimate truth. But this ultimate truth needs to be delivered only for individuals who have done everything possible to prepare the mind to receive these statements, to receive these final declarations of Upanishad, and assimilate, integrate, and allow it to really internalize and transform one's experience of oneself in life. So one has to be, this knowledge has to have the power to cancel one's sense of being the doer of action, the originator of my thoughts, the receivers of my karmas. All of that has to be neutralized by this knowledge when the individual, the mind of the individual, is really meant to receive it. So therefore, these ultimate teachings of Vedanta, they need to be delivered gradually, and they have to be preceded by Karma Yoga, as I always say, we often say. So the very idea of self-realized enlightenment person is actually contrary to the highest teaching of Vedanta. Why? Because this is a non-dual reality. In a reality, there are not two, but only one. Okay, there are not many Brahmans, many selves, many eyes. There is only one. So to say that one person got enlightened, or got self-realized, like Ramana once said. Somebody asked him about self-realization, and he said, when the self is never realized. Well, I don't know, for the few of you may be familiar with the teachings, the words of Ramana Maharaj. The self is always ever realized. The self is always ever free, always ever full, whole, and complete. And if I am the self, and Upanishad tells that to me, and then I take it, faith, and I say, okay, I am whole, full, and complete. I'm already fully realized. There is nothing lacking here, therefore I am free. So, but this knowledge, again, has to be effective. It needs to somehow transform one's emotional personality, as often I have said lately. You know, emotionally, one has to live from that platform of freedom. So, self-realization comes about when the self, which has been suffering under an apparent sense of limitation, removes the notion that it is a person. So that's another simple statement. Self-realization comes about when this notion that I am so-and-so, with a date of birth, okay, a profession, some roles I play in society, a certain age, a certain mental condition, a certain physical condition, all those aspects of our mind that define our sense of existence needs to be transcended. So self-knowledge, it represents the end of suffering, and which is a byproduct of the removal of this misidentification as a body-mind person, a person limited by my qualities and properties, what I know, what I can do, my skills, and so on, my history of life. So all of that has to be transcended so that we can say the self realize itself by itself, you know, as the self. Okay, this misidentification with the instrument called the jiva, the vehicle of experience, you know, the electricity identified with a certain bulb, identified with a certain fridge, you know, or any other kind of a electronic or electric instrument, you know, is going to be bound to those instruments, to those vehicles. So likewise, consciousness needs to be freed from this obsession, attachment, identification with these vehicles called the body-mind construct of the human jiva. No? This notion that I am a person needs to be removed. However, this text is written for those who are caught up in the web of duality and those who believe I am a person. So how are you gonna come with a teaching to people that are totally caught up with the world, the vision of duality, and believes to be a person, believes the world to be real? How are you going to come and say, okay, so the truth is you are not a person? So Nisargadatta Maharaj loved to tell that to people who used to visit him. And who was going to believe such a statement? You know, get out of here, you are not a person. Okay? What? This guy is not smoking bidi. He may be smoking something else, you know, because it makes no sense to tell me I'm not a person, right? So we are here having our unfolding scriptures which were written for those people who are caught up in Maya, caught up in samsara, attached to the body-mind, and dependent on a lot of objects of the field as a means to complete and satisfy oneself. So we need to address the ignorance of the individual by entering Nietzsche and addressing the ignorance, presenting a logic that neutralizes that ignorance and gradually remove or cancel all those ignorance until the individual understand those statements, those declarations, such as you are not a person, you are consciousness alone. the people, they believe themselves to be a person. You need to respect that. We cannot make them feel that if they are stupid. This ignorance is universal, and it's tough. It's hardwired. It's very deeply ingrained in our body. So we need to be gentle with ourselves and with the others, and not make people feel like they are fool. And to tell them, we know that it's tough. This is a tough one, and there is a lot of work that we can do. And by following the logic as presented by the statements of Vedanta, by the verse, by the text of Vedanta, we can knock off all of those notions that produced, those mistaken notions that produce this firm identification as the body-mind construct. So the text explains self-realization in terms of a person mistakenly identified with the body-mind. This is what we mean by compassion. Vedanta is very compassionate. It goes in meteor, it presents Karma Yoga. It tells to Arjuna, okay, Arjuna, Karma Yoga is superior to Jnana Yoga. Let's do the work from the bottom up, from the ground up, okay? Let's get prepared to become a real sannyasi, a real inquirer, and so on. So it requires a lot of patience and a lot of compassion. That's why we call Vedanta an extensive and complete body of knowledge, which distinguishes Vedanta from all other independent source of self-inquiry or enlightenment or self-realization. Because we have a complete and extensive body of knowledge, which includes Karma Yoga, Dharma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasana, which are Jnana Yoga, following as presented by Vedanta, because there are some other people who present Jnana Yoga in a very simplified manner as well. I'm going a little bit faster because I'm kind of fixated with the idea of complete this text today. But please feel free to interrupt me if I'm going too fast and if you have questions or contributions. Okay, the next commentary is that Jivanmukta is someone who is liberated while alive. So we heard about that before, and there is another notion of Videhamukta. So we say that the scriptures say that Jivanmukta is the Jiva that liberates, is free from this mistaken identification as the body-mind while alive. Okay, he is called Jivanmukta. And then there is another concept which is called Videhamukta. Videhamukta is the Jiva. After he leaves the physical body, he is given the title as Videhamukta. But it's important we understand that Videhamukta is not an entity out of the body that really experiences this freedom the way that the Jivanmukta experience, because without the body, there is no vehicle to be in contact with Jagata, with the field, with the world, okay? So the best way to understand this notion of Jivanmukta and Videhamukta is to imagine a jar, let's say a clay jar, to follow the old tradition, that everything was presented in clay in the old days. So we have a clay jar, and of course, the jar is empty because we dropped all the water, and the jar, therefore, is full of space. So there is a jar, there is a lot of space inside of the jar, and there is a lot of space all around the jar. So outside to all sides there is space, and then there is space inside of the jar. So what is the difference between the space outside of the jar and the space inside of the jar? The space on the left side, the right side, below the jar, above the jar. Is there any difference in space? No, there is no difference. It's all space, okay? So now, imagine that somehow I'm not careful enough and I move the position of the jaw and the jaw drops. So when the jaw drops, what happens to the space which was inside of the jaw? It happened nothing. Happened nothing. There was space was inside of the jaw, was all around the jaw, to all directions. You know, the jaw broke. Before the jaw broke, the space was inside, outside, and through the walls of the jaw, because the space is all pervasive. It pervades the walls of the clay jar as well. It accommodates everything in each space. It's the most subtle, the most fundamental of the 5 elements. So we have space inside of the jaw and then pervading the walls of the jaw, and it appears as if it's limited by the jaw, but it's not, because it's even going through the walls of the jaw breaks, and nothing happens to space. The space does not really merge with the space outside. So the Jivanmukta is like the space while it's still in a body. There is a body, okay? Consciousness is shining in a body, okay? It's pervading and shining in a physical body, okay? And then this jaw breaks down for some reason, okay? And then this consciousness remains, and it remains no longer associated to one physical jaw, one physical body. So therefore, the Vedanta is the same consciousness, it's the same knowledge, no longer associated to one physical body, no longer shines through one physical body, but it's the same knowledge shines through all physical bodies. Okay? So there is only one self-knowledge, one space, one consciousness. It appears to be within the physical bodies, but it's not. And Jivanmukta is while it's still within a body. You know, it's called Jivanmukta because it is still an entity experiencing, knowing entity. This entity, okay, it lives the body and it remains as free space, okay, without any content apparently comprising or limiting. It is limitless nature as consciousness existence. So Jivanmukta is someone liberated while alive. One cannot actually be liberated because one is already liberated. So that's what we said before. The whole idea that, oh, I got liberation. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, I got moksha, for me, it does not sound right. You understand? I got liberated because everybody is already free. The person who tends to say, I have moksha, I got moksha, I got liberation, usually is some aspects of the jiva that was not completely resolved into consciousness. The wise Jivanmukta usually does not say that, you know, I am free, I have moksha. We cannot actually be liberated because one is already liberated, unless liberation or enlightenment is seen as a removal of ignorance. So the best statement we can say, if somebody ever knock at your door and ask you, I'm sorry, we are doing a research here, and I'm knocking at your door, Mr. Dave, I want to know if you are enlightened. I heard that you may be enlightened.
Arlindo, I can't hear you very well. There's some background.
It's one of the mics
Maybe Trudy or Anutosh.
Let me. Okay, I mute Anatosh. Anatosh is the one who likes to make noise. Yeah.
That's better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I was saying that there will be a time that people are going to knock in people's door to say, we are doing a study, research here. I want to know if you are enlightened. Okay, are you liberated? Are you enlightened? This is a highly enlightened world nowadays, and a lot of people, are you enlightened? Are you liberated? So if somebody ever asks you, best to say is like, I'm no longer deceived by the idea that I am the body and the mind. I'm no longer deceived. I'm no longer deceived by the notion that I am the body and the mind. Or the most, or we can say, no, I know who and what I am. I am just free, limitless consciousness. And by the way, I'm sorry, but you too. Okay? So we can say something like that. Okay? We can tell them, I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's hard to accept that, but you too, you are not a person. Since you are asking me these questions, I'm going to tell you the truth. But, I'm not the enlightened one in the sense that, I have moksha and I got moksha. No, because all there is consciousness and everybody is already free. But of course, as we said before, this knowledge needs to be properly digested, properly assimilated, integrated in my life. And that's why it takes some work, because ignorance, which brings about this firm identification as the body-mind, is a little bit hard to be canceled and neutralized, okay? It requires certain developments of qualifications and then a consistent and persistent work of what we call our beautiful, lovely Vedanta sadhana, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, okay? So there is no way around that. Only by the means of knowledge we can get this freedom, but the self is already free. The notion of Jivanmukta, I explained this notion. Okay. Moksha, liberation, enlightenment, which begins with self-realization, is the unshakable conviction that one is the formless, actionless, all-pervasive, ever-present, pure, limitless consciousness or awareness. No? Moksha, liberation, enlightenment, and then I mentioned, which begins with self-realization. So it's important for us to understand a little bit the distinction between self-realization and liberation, moksha, or freedom, okay? So self-realization or self-recognition is the understanding when this understanding is firm, direct, and immediate, okay? It's a direct and immediate knowledge. We will see what it means, immediate knowledge. The self-knowledge is of the nature of immediate knowledge, okay? Immediate knowledge, that which is already present. It's not something that needs to be accomplished. It is the already accomplished knowledge, but somehow, due to some wrong notions, we miss out. We don't really grab it, okay? Self-knowledge of the nature of the immediate knowledge. So this self-realization is an immediate, directly vision, knowledge, understanding that, oh my God, I'm not my mind. I am this consciousness shining here and it's shining everywhere. Okay? So this is self-realization or self-knowledge. Enlightenment is a word that has certain connotations. We don't even like to use it very much in our lineage. So liberation, which is synonymous of moksha, is a development, is a gradual development which begins with this firm self-recognition, this firm understanding that I am consciousness and consciousness alone. Okay? The mind is an object, is a vehicle, is an instrument at my disposal. And by the way, I don't have only one vehicle at my disposal. I have infinite numbers of vehicles at my disposal. Huh? Moksha, liberation, enlightenment, which begins with self-realization, is the unshakable conviction that one is the formless, actionless, all-pervasive, ever-present, limitless, pure consciousness aware. It's unshakable conviction. So, unshakable conviction is a knowledge that is so hard, it's so firm, it's so always present. Okay, it's doubtless knowledge. The same way we have no doubt regarding our gender. We know, oh, no, I'm not a girl, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm a man. Okay? I'm not a cat. I'm sure I'm not a cat. I have some cats home or not. I'm sure I'm not dog. Okay? I'm not Mark's cat. I see the cat there. What dog? A cat. So I'm sure I am a human being. So the certainty of knowledge regarding my true identity as consciousness alone needs to be as firm, as doubtless as the knowledge that I'm not a horse, I'm not a dog, I'm not a cat. That's what it means to say. Unshakable conviction, doubtless knowledge, conviction that I am this consciousness, limitless principle called consciousness or awareness. Provide, so I put here another note, provide this certainty of knowledge cancels the individual sense of ownership, doership, and receivership. What it means. When we understand that I am limitless consciousness, this knowledge has to grow roots in my three bodies in such a way that it cancels these bits and pieces of ignorance that sustains these notions, these mistaken notions that I am the author of my thoughts, the originator of my actions and my words. Okay, I'm the one who is going to do karma, receive the results of my karmas. This knowledge has to be properly assimilated to the extent that it cancels, it neutralizes the sense of ownership, doership, ownership of my body, of my properties, my assets, anything, you know. It begins with the physical body, with my notions, and that my doership is I am the doer of my actions, and I am the receiver of the results of my actions. All of that needs to be somehow canceled. It's not something that occurs instantly, okay? That's why I like to present moksha in the same way Ramji likes to do so. We present moksha as a gradual development which begins with self-recognition or self-knowledge. You know who you are. No, Ramji goes to the extreme. I don't know where that formula 5, 10, and 15 comes from, but it's a dramatization of these aspects of the teachings. We need to be patient and know that ignorance is so hardwired. So if we get this direct and immediate recognition, I am consciousness, don't think that that's the end of my spiritual work. Okay, in a way, this is the beginning. So because there is a lot of other aspects of my own subtle body, of my own causal body, that needs to begin to align to this knowledge in a way that I live in conformity with this knowledge. Otherwise, I'm going to be in conflict because my knowledge is not be aligned, or my words, actions, my words and deeds are not going to be in conformity with my knowledge, and I'm going to be confused. Wow, I got the knowledge, but I'm somehow behaving from another standpoint. I'm behaving in a very gross and a very unenlightened way. So it takes time until this. So therefore, I said that this knowledge is moksha, liberation. Provide this knowledge has the power to 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 cancel the individual sense of ownership, doership, and receivership, which occurs gradually. This self-knowledge also needs to convert my binding Adamic vasanas. What are binding Adamic vasanas? So a binding vasana is a vasana that is so compulsive. It's a tendency, it's a desire or fear that compels me to think and act in a certain way because I believe that without gaining or avoiding this certain object of experience, I'm not okay. Okay, so therefore I suffer if I don't get what I want. This is a binding desire. Desire can be positive and negative, as we all know. Huh? A fear is a negative desire, but yet it is a desire to avoid something. Okay, avoid to accomplish, a desire to accomplish, desire to avoid some circumstance, but this is all the same energy. So this knowledge, it needs to convert my binding desires, my binding vasanas, okay? And especially those rajasic and tamasic vasanas, which are called adamic vasanas. Most importantly, our tamasic vasanas, that they're extremely adamic. Those are desires and vasanas that they are ready to really hurt anybody and anything in order to get what I want, okay? So this knowledge needs to convert my binding adamic vasanas, desires, into non-binding dharmic vasanas. It's not enough to convert into dharmic vasana. Oh, now I'm okay because I have only dharmic desires. I have only dharmic vasanas. I have only good desires for the good of everyone. Huh? And I bring into account the overall needs of the field, and I contribute and so on. And I have this huge sattvic vasana, and I'm totally aligned with Ishwara's natural laws. Okay? But if this vasana, this sattvic dharmic vasana, is a binding vasana, again, it represents a problem. Okay? Because moksha is freedom from even dharmic, sattvic vasanas. Okay? One is governed, one is driven, one is operated by these beautiful vasanas, but without this sense of being bound to the results, bound to I have to do this and I have to reap the results of these actions. If there is a binding to those vasanas or very highly elevated desires, if there is a binding to them, it means that freedom is not really free or completely free. Excuse me. Wow. Okay. So this Jivanmukta, or this hard and fast self-knowledge, yeah, is what we call a firm understanding that one is free of everything. Okay, how can we be free of everything? It means, how can we live a life without getting hooked or bound to people, place, things, and circumstances? Huh? How can we live like that without getting, yeah, entangled, getting, these karmic entanglements here and there? So this is the condition that we aim for, which is called moksha. It's a hard and fast knowledge, understanding that one is free of everything. I don't depend on anything, anybody, anything. Okay. It does not mean that I don't depend on my employees to run my business. Right, Vidya? So we depend on our employees to run our business. We have a lot of codependence in our lives as jivas. But this self-knowledge brings about this firm certainty, understand that frees the jiva from this constant concern about whether or not my needs or my desires are going to be met. Okay? Because deep inside I know that whatsoever Prabhupada Karma Ishwara presents me with, none of these are going to really affect that which I am as consciousness, because I am of the nature of limitlessness, all pervasiveness. Nothing can touch me. You understand? So this is an understanding that grows gradually. The Jnani, the Jivanmukta, develops this immunity against adversities and difficulties. That's why it's called moksha, freedom. That's why we say, like, yeah, it's worth going for it, because everything we try to gain and accomplish in life is for the sake of avoiding or removing this sense of limitation, which is so common to all individuals. We want to restore our natural sense of limitlessness, and that is only possible by the means of this knowledge and understanding of my fundamental, essential, free nature as consciousness, which is already or ever free. It's a shift from a different platform. I know I don't depend on anything. And then from my Jiva platform, I know I depend on my employees. If Ishwara takes away all my employees, I say, it's all right, Ishwara. I know that if you did that, it's because it's good for me. It's because there is something for me here to learn, okay? And if I need to go into Papa Karma, into adversity, bring it on, because I want to exhaust my Papa. Yeah? I don't want to be here only to exhaust my punya. I'm here to exhaust Papa, punya, and anything in between. Therefore, anything that comes, I take as prasad on the level of my jiva. So from the most fundamental nature of mine as consciousness, I know that nothing can really touch me. And what is the most dramatic adversity that we can face in life? It's death of the body. Everybody would like to live forever, because this desire for experience is built into the system. So we would love to live forever. So even when the death comes, though, the Jnani has to be prepared, immune to that. And the only vaccination we can have against that kind of adversity, called old age, illness, and that, the only immunity we have is the self-knowledge, because the self-knowledge is going to shift our sense of identity in a way that, okay, it's all right, I understood the games here, I know that everything here is time-bound, and this jiva here is just an object, a vehicle of experience, and my true nature is free, limitless awareness, and I never go anywhere, I never die, die, I was never born, and so on. Therefore, all this anxiety regarding when is going to be my time to leave this body is already taken care due to this shift of understand, the shift of identity. It is the hard and fast to understand that the one is free of everything and one is self-luminous. The liberated one is like a wave that has realized that it's not separate from the ocean. He or she does not appear to be different from other human beings. That's another important thing. Any one of these gurus that try to put themselves on the pedestal and walk on a certain way, talk in a certain way, behave in a certain way, and most important, they begin expecting respect from others because they want to be special. They want to be different from the others because I am wise, I am the enlightened one. So that is not a liberated person. Anybody expecting love, respect, appreciation, and validation from one's devotees is not free. It's bound to the devotees, to the Sangha. You know, it's in a kind of a different prison. It's a kind of a different samsara. We see it all over the spiritual world. It's very, very rare to find real, honest Vedanta teachers. I mean, Vedanta teachers, they are most honest. Not all of them are self-realized. Not all of them are qualified to teach. That does not go to say that I'm a qualified teacher. but at least the teacher should be honest enough to understand that there is nothing special about self-recognition, self-realization, and moksha, you know, because everybody is already consciousness in any case. And if Shwara wants anybody to go and propagate this knowledge, Shwara is going to put you in a situation to go and do the best you can to propagate this knowledge. But there's nothing special. He or she does not show up and appear to be different or superior to other human beings. He or she does not feel inclined to develop an identity as the enlightened being for the sake of impressing others. His or her physical body goes on as long as the momentum of past actions and is still in force. We're talking about prarabdha karma, the momentum of our past actions. We're going to go a little bit into karma. I think it's going to be the last topic to conclude the Tattvabodha. So we're going to talk about the 3 levels of karma. So the prarabdha karma of the Jivanmukta, as we say, it continues to unfold. Okay, there's nothing we can do about that. We can literally stop doing karmas. We can withdraw to the forest, to the ashram, to the monastery, anywhere we want, and say, I'm not going to do action. I'm going to just do the minimum necessary for the survival of this construct. And I don't want to do actions because I understood the complexities of karma. Therefore, I don't even want to produce action. I know I should produce action and not identify myself as the doer, the result of the actions to Ishwara's domain and so on. But I resolve I don't do actions because I don't want to deal with any results of actions. But even if we do so, yet all the actions that were placed into the field in the past 30, 50, 60 years, not all of them have yet fructified. So the Jivanmukta is the one that is going to end up receiving the momentum of its past actions that are going to keep fructifying on a day-to-day basis of life. That's unavoidable. That's why here and there that we say there is no agami karma for the Jivanmukta, there is no Sanchita karma for the Jivanmukta, but there is to a certain extent prarabdha karma because it's going to continually unfold. And actions that we did in the past that may not be appropriate, not really sattvic, not really pure-hearted, in harmony with descriptions, sattvic actions, you know, but if those actions that were cruel, that were self-centered, it was egoistic and so on. So a lot of those actions that hurt some people 30, 40, 50 years ago, okay? And even if I did not do actions, but the motivations I have inside of me, they were a lot of the time negative. I could control, let's say, my actions and my words, and you know, but there was a lot of motives behind that were very negative. All of that, it manifests and fructifies in due time, and if it does not unfold itself, it brings about another burst so that it can somehow exhaust itself. That's the point here. His or her physical body, the body of the Jivanmukta, the Yoni, goes on as long as the momentum of past actions and is still in force, meaning to say, or Prarabdha karma. You know, there is still a lot of karma in the system that has to unfold, fructify. He or she does not perform actions with a sense of doership and is unconcerned with the results of action. So the Jivanmukta, it performs actions without the sense of doership, and it does not identify with the results of action, meaning to say, I'm not identified as a karta, the one who does the action, and I'm not identified as a bhokta, the one that receives the results of the action. But the results of the actions are going to continue to unfold, and one receives it according to one's past karmas. But with attitude of unconcernedness. What kind of knowledge is self-knowledge? The knowledge of the self is immediate knowledge. Aparoksha jnana. Aparoksha jnana means immediate knowledge. So very quickly, this one. There are three types of knowledge. Knowledge can be gained in three ways. By direct perception, we get knowledge through our five sense organs, and we can do it directly. Okay? We see, we heard, we felt, we taste, we smelled, and then we understood something. Okay? The second way of gaining my knowledge is not directly, but indirectly by inference. Inference is when I cannot really perceive through my sense organs and the mind directly, but I can infer a certain knowledge. The most common example or analogy is wherever there is fire, there must be, wherever there is smoke, there must be fire. Okay, so I look behind my house, there is a huge smoke come. I said, oh my God, there must be fire in my backyard. I better run there and see. So I did not see the fire. I saw the smoke. Okay, but by the smoke, I could infer the fact that there is fire. Why? Because inferential knowledge is based on perceptive knowledge. And before I had the direct knowledge about fire being associated with smoke, smoke being a byproduct of fire. Okay, I had this experience, this direct knowledge, and now I have the inferential knowledge, which is always based on perceptive knowledge. Inferential knowledge is always based on perceptive knowledge. It's important to understand that. This is the second kind of knowledge, the indirect by or through inference. And the third kind of knowledge is called immediate knowledge. Immediate knowledge, or aparoksha knowledge, jnana, is that knowledge of something that I already knew, but I did not know that I knew. The knowledge of something that, in that case, it's in knowledge in reference of my true nature, that I already am what I am. Everybody is what one is, okay? Yet, I don't really acknowledge and appreciate that fact. So it's a knowledge that is already present. Therefore, it's immediately, directly available. There is no distance between this knowledge of myself, because the knowledge of myself is equal to myself. Okay, so there is a nice metaphor that explains that. It's like you go to a party and then you meet some friend, and then you hear somebody say, "Oh, by the way, you remember that friend of ours from the time of the high school 30 years ago? His name was Paul." No, oh no, I don't remember. Oh no, and then I explained to you he used to play baseball or whatever. So, and then it's, oh yes, I remember him. So, oh, okay. So, yeah, he's here. So, and then you say, so I want to meet him. And then when you go about your party, you start having a conversation with Paul, but you don't know that Paul is Paul because you did not recognize Paul. So you're in a situation that you know Paul, but you think that you don't know Paul. And then you go back to your friend and say, hey, by the way, you told me that you are going to point out to me, I want to get to know Paul. I want to be introduced to Paul. And he says, what are you talking about? You are having a conversation with Paul. Paul is this guy next to you, okay? So this is an immediate knowledge. It's a knowledge of that which is always here, present, but somehow it is apparently covered up, concealed due to those two energies called rajas and tamas, projection and, and binding and concealing. It's vikshepa and avarana. So those two energies makes us a little bit difficult to makes it to us a little bit difficult to really see the most obvious thing. Okay, so self-knowledge is of the nature of a paroksha jnana, which means immediate knowledge. Okay, immediate knowledge is knowledge of something that is present, but it's not acknowledged. It's present, but somehow I miss out. It's present, but somehow I'm looking out and I miss the fundamental principle called the seer, the knower, the experiencer. Is a knowledge of something that is always ever present, but it is not really recognized, acknowledged, and appreciated and known. You understand? So that is the nature of self-knowledge. And it's important we understand that, because a lot of people have to think that self-knowledge is yet something, a knowledge something about something other than the knower. Okay? So the self is not an object of knowledge. It cannot be known by the sense organs and the mind. It cannot be known by inference. It can only be known directly and immediately, because it's of the nature of a paroksha jnana. Is that clear? The self is always present. Without it, nothing can be experienced or known. Self-knowledge is, I am limitless. Self-knowledge is not, I know the self. Self-knowledge is, I am the limitless self. If one's knowledge amounts to the statement, oh, I have experienced the self, one is misled. One is in duality, and one is in the world of yoga, and one better get back to Bhagavad Gita, let's say. Okay. So what is karma? The last topic. How are we doing with the time? Good. We're going to complete. What is karma? So we know what karma is. Karma literally translates to action, activity. So everything we do, is a karma. Okay? It's an action. So the relationship between the Jiva and the field, the Dharma field, that sometimes I like to call the field of action, is such that the Jiva is compelled to act on a moment-to-moment basis. It does so because life is very dynamic, and this interaction with the field requires, especially in modern times that things are so intense, it requires us to present a response to an stimulus on a moment-to-moment basis almost. And we cannot press the pause button and say, oh, okay, now I'm overloaded here. I'm not going to respond, and I don't want any more stimulus coming into my life here. So I'm going to press the pause button and open a bottle of wine, or we'll begin drinking some beer, watching some moves or some football or whatever. I'm putting everything on hold here. But what happens is that life continues kicking in, and we're gonna find ourselves sooner or later in a condition, a situation that is nicely illustrated as a karmic indigestion. Karmic indigestion is when a lot of karma situations are coming to you, and you keep pressing the pause button, and you don't put those karmas to rest. You don't resolve those karmas. You don't approach those karmas to the very end. You start throwing some of those prarabdha karmas under the carpet, under the bed. You just push it around, and then you push it on your unconscious mind. You start deluding yourself that you're living a trouble, challenge-free life, but you're in denial. So karma is this constant game of stimulus and response, stimuli and response, stimulus and response. And we have to respond if we want to live a happy life. And the ability of ours of respond appropriately and timely is going to define whether we're going to produce punya karma or papa karma. If we don't respond appropriately, we're going to produce papa karma. Papa karma is karma adverse, negative karma, karma that's going to get back to me later on as the results of my actions. It comes back later on as adversities, difficulties, challenges, crises, and so on. Okay, which serve a certain purpose as well. So the individual jiva is beginningless because he is born of ignorance, which is beginningless. It's important we understand that we are all born of ignorance. That goes back to the first conversation we are having here before we begin our class today, when Vidya asked me, so why you don't want to come back? And I told her, what for? No? So we all are born out of ignorance. Ignorance is the very fabric of mithya, the fabric of samsara. What is ignorance? Ignorance is the nature of reality, is duality, is diversity, is plurality. And I need to accomplish things in order to complete myself. So this is the fundamental macrocosmic causal body of the universe, many times referred to as Maya Ishvara, that is also referred to as the beautiful, elegant, complex, intelligent ignorance. Okay? So this ignorance is the mother of all of us. Okay? We come here because we believe in the reality of this world. Our subtle bodies, they leave the physical body, and they are latent with all these desires for accomplishment, for completions, resolutions of situations and whatnot. And it's somehow, by the magic of Ishvara, it begins producing a new vehicle so that it can continue to work its karma. Okay? The individual, in truth, is beginningless. Why? Because Maya, Ishvara, / ignorance is also beginningless. Okay? So this ignorance is beginningless. The individual jiva is beginningless because he is born out of ignorance, which is also beginningless. During its existence, it assumes different forms and goes through countless births and deaths. So we go through countless births, and these countless births provides us with the opportunity of grow, grow, development, develop, mature, grow, developing wisdom, elevating myself spiritually, becoming a more dharmic person, more scientific person, and so on. This is growth, spiritual growth. It provides me with the opportunity to grow spiritually, which is the purpose of the manifest according to the scriptures, of course. So during its existence, it assumes different forms and goes through countless births and deaths. When in human form, it performs good and bad actions, which means karmas, and it performs with a sense of doership. So if we would be able to do actions without a sense of ownership, we would have no karmic problems. But the problem is that we human jivas, we are bound by this sense of identity as a separate individual who owns its existence and owns its thoughts and actions. So the sense of ownership and doership is built into the jiva. After 2-3 years of life, it begins like developing that sense, that identity as the doer. Yeah? So as we perform actions with the sense of doership, okay, we're going to accumulate punya karma and papa karma, depending on my actions. If I do good actions, I have punya karma. If I have bad actions, I have papa karma. Yeah? Whether an action is good or bad is determined by the motive rather than by the action itself. This is a very, very subtle, very important point. What mostly defines if an action is going to produce punya or papa, if this action is a sattvic, it's a good action or not, is not the action alone, but the action plus the motives behind the action. The motivation counts as much as the action, and the scriptures say that the motivation counts even more than the action. Because we may do some good actions on the surface apparently, but if behind that action my motivation is power, prestige, vanity, and whatnot, or doing this to gain that, or to control a situation, to get some more political power, or whatever. Okay, so the motivations behind our actions are more important than the actions. Therefore, this statement here, whether an action is good or bad, whether an action is going to produce punya or papa, is determined by the motive rather than the action itself. Okay, so it's mostly determined by the motive. The law of karma is the law of cause and effect. Every action produces an effect. And the cause and effect is the very, very mechanics of media. Everything is impacting everything else. Every action produces a reaction. Every action produces a subtle, unseen effect, depending on the motive. Again, bringing the motive. Every action produces a subtle or unseen. So every time we do an action, we deal with karma, because action, which is defined as karma, or karma meaning translated as action in English, an action does not stop at the action itself. An action brings about some effects, some repercussions, So when we do an action, you'll be sure that there will be a lot of ripples coming from those actions. And that action is going to impact a lot of other actions put into the field, is going to impact a lot of other people. And all of this complexity of so many actions are going to come about in an incredible, complex, and intelligent equation called Ishwara's karmic equation. And this equation is going to bring about, after all, my Prarabdha karma, my life circumstance. Yeah. So when we put an action, immediately we do with immediate result. Okay, if the action was appropriate and timely and so on, we feel good, we have peace of mind, we feel at peace. If it's a bad action, immediately we go into a sense of inadequacy, we go into remorse, in guilt, and we're going to feel bad about us, our self-esteem is going to go down. So we have this first impact every time we do an action. And then there are some other levels, because the other person may retaliate 5 minutes afterwards, or immediately after you say or do something. The other may retaliate. So, and then you deal with another level of complexity, and then those complexities are going to combine with a lot of other factors in the field, and is going to create what we call a sanchita karma that remains suspense, waiting to fructify as my Prarabdha karma. So karma is a nice, beautiful science which needs to be understood, because it does not stop just on the action itself, our response to the field. There is much more to karma than just the ability to respond. Ultimately, karma involves our ability to receive the results of our actions. So if we have a sattvic personality, we're going to be able to receive it in a nice, beautiful way, with resistance against whatsoever adversities or papa karmas Ishwara may send to us, which is always custom designed to every one of us. It's always good, because as I said before, papa karma serves the purpose to exhaust my bad actions of the past, exhausting papa. Every action produces subtle or unseen effect depending on the motive. When the motives are noble, motives are noble, we can even make an action that was mistaken, but the motive being so noble, that action is going to bear punya, okay? Although it was subject to some mistake, but in principle, in essence, the motive was pure, was noble, okay? So when the motives are noble, the karma is called punya. Punya karma results in happy experience in the future when it fructifies as my life circumstance, okay? It fructifies in this life and fructifies in the next life. In the next life, yes, because unfortunately this system is a little bit locked up. It's a bit congested. We respond, we are placing karmas all the time, and not all the karma finds the time to fructify in one lifetime. So how we know that? We know because, we are still dealing with karmas that were done before, and I came here with a lot of karma that was not really a result of my actions, because I was a child and I was already dealing with a lot of different karmas. It must come from before. The same way I have a lot of things that I did not resolve, that I want to resolve, I want to conclude, actions that I did that I regret, actions that I did not enjoy the fruits yet. So if we analyze karma as a science, we understand that rebirth must be there. Otherwise, nothing makes really sense, okay? We don't have in one lifetime to exhaust our punyas and our papas. Every action produces subtle or unseen effect depending on the motive. When the motives are noble, the karma is called punya. Punya karma results in happy experience in this life and in the next. When the motive is selfish, and harmful, the karma is called papa. Papa karma results in misery, both in this life and the next life. People think that Adamic, cruel, corrupted people, in positions of power on different nations governing the world, they think that these guys are having a great time. They are really enjoying a lot of punya. No, they enjoy a lot of papa in spite of all the richness that they have, all the assets, all the properties. They are suffering because they have destroyed their mind. They destroy the empathy, the sensibility towards life. Okay? They are almost like unhumans. Therefore, they cannot really enjoy punya. They cannot be an enjoyer. And Krishna, Lord Krishna says a few times towards the end of the Gita, he says, and for those individuals extremely cruel and the dharmic, oppressing the others and causing so much damage to the Dharma field, I will give them again and again new births in which they are going to suffer greatly. So it's stated in the Gita, okay? So the first thing is, don't think that these people will have billions of dollars at the cost of the working class, by all kinds of corruption. Don't think that they are enjoying a lot of punya. The most we can say that they enjoy a sort of materialistic punya, but that materialistic punya does not give satisfaction unless the person is spiritually elevated. This person follows Dharma and understands how to live in harmony with other beings and other creatures and so on. So how many karmas are there? How many karmas are there? So there are three kinds of karmas. There is Agami karma, Sanchita karma, and Parabodha karma. So this is almost the end. So all the actions that we put as a response, we have this situation and the situation between the stimulus and my response. There is a small window of time that allows me to somehow discern, discriminate, and I cannot wait much, and then I have to respond. So our free will, or our faculty of discrimination, of intelligence, is a very short window of time between the stimuli and the response. So between the stimuli and the response, I have this momentary window of time that I can process the term and decide what's the best course of action here. Okay, it's very fast and it's not easy. Mistakes happen. Okay, timely and also by the nature of the actions themselves. So Agami karma is the action that I perform. Okay, every time that I'm called to respond. And the actions that I perform with a sense of doership. So we are analyzing karma. Karma refers to the human jivas alone. All the other animals are exempt. They are free from karma because they don't have this free will, this ability to determine, decide, this intelligence, that provides us with this power to decide, to choose how to respond. We have this free will, which has a huge price tag attached to it because it's a huge responsibility. Sometimes people say, oh my God, I wish I would be a dog living at the house of Vidya because, there is no responsibility involved. I don't need to do anything. I'm well taken care. Okay, and I don't have free will, I don't have intelligence, but who cares? This free will comes with such a huge responsibility. I own my actions, and then in the moment that I own my action, I have to also own the results of my actions, and this is unavoidable. The action that an individual performs willfully with a sense of doership during its existence in human form that leave positive impressions, punya, or negative impressions, papa, in the causal body and fructify in the future, all these actions we call agami actions, agami karma, okay? Our response, our immediate response to our everyday, moment to moment call to interact and respond, okay? And as I mentioned before, we cannot press the button, the pause buttons too often, otherwise we get into a condition called karmic indigestion. Animals do not have karma because there is no sense of doership in their actions. They are just programs. They are innocent. They are pure beings just following their program. They have their program well set in their causal body, and their subtle body is so unsophisticated that does not give them the possibility of choosing intelligently and therefore identifying itself as the doer and the receiver of one's actions. So, animals do not have karma because there is no sense of doership in their actions. Agami karma is destroyed by knowledge. The knowledge, I am free, limitless consciousness and not the body, mind, or the doer of my actions, the receiver of the results, that knowledge resolves the agami karma. So it's said to destroy agami karma. We need to understand what it means, because it does not mean that once I have this self-knowledge, I don't need to respond to the stimulus coming from the field. I don't need to go, get up and go to work like Stephen does every day to be the provider for his family and his children and so on. No, it does not mean that I can stop karma. You know, I have to own my roles in society, and self-knowledge is going to destroy the identification that I have as the karta, as the doer of actions, and the anxiety derived from this identification as I, the doer, the seeker, and the receiver of the results of my actions. So when we say sanchita karma, when we say the agami karma is destroyed by self-knowledge, by this knowledge, I am consciousness, and consciousness is of the nature of actionlessness. So I am this actionless. I'm free of actions. Consciousness does not do anything. But yet, all actions depend on consciousness. Consciousness is free and independent of this field, this huge universe, this cosmos, which is a field of cause and effect and actions. But yet nothing happens without the blessings of consciousness, okay? So I am consciousness, therefore I am not a karta, I am a karta, okay? I am free, I am actionless. This knowledge neutralizes the identification of the individual as the doers of one's actions. But the guy or the girl or whosoever this yan is going to stand up in the morning and with a joyful heart is going to go about doing the actions knowing that he is being done by the system, okay? But fundamentally, he knows that I am this consciousness and all this dynamic field of action which involved this jiva that wakes up with me every morning in my bed, you know, all of that belongs to the realm of Ishvara, and I have aligned myself not only with my ultimate nature as consciousness, but I have aligned my thoughts, deeds, thoughts, actions, and deeds and action. No, how you say? Your microphone was off. Never mind. Anyhow, so I have aligned my mind by the means of knowledge with Ishvara. I understand the laws governing this media field of experience. Therefore, I follow the nature, I follow Dharma, and my actions are appropriate. I know I'm not really the doer, it belongs to Ishvara, but yet this complete knowledge, which is a knowledge that involves Nitya knowledge and Satya knowledge. I am the actionless principle, which is the substratum of everything, and I don't do anything, but yet there is a vehicle of action and experience here. And as such, I just conform my actions with Ishvara, and I dedicate the actions to Ishvara with this spirit. I'm free from the identification as the doer on both levels, on the level of Satya and on the level of Mithya. This is what we call a complete self-knowledge, a complete self-knowledge. So the second kind of karma is called Sanchita karma. Sanchita karma is the store of punyas and papas accumulate over time and that stand in an individual's karmic account. So karmic account means to say that every one of us have our own bank account, bank karmic account, okay? There is nothing that we do as an action that does not come back to us as a result. Okay, we have difficult to connect our actions with its result because action sometimes takes a long time to fructify, and when it fructifies, it's not only associated to my action, but with my action today, several other actions combined with a lot of other actions from a lot of other people that comes about by this incredible equation of life, karmic equation of Ishvara, to produce my Parabodha karma. Okay, so Sanchita karma is this punya and papa, all these good and bad actions, root on the motives behind my act, that they somehow remain in the system, suspend, waiting to combine and fructify as my life circumstance, my life situations. Okay. When they come about, as long as they stay suspended, we call it Sanchita karma. Sanchita karma is no longer produced, or we could say Sanchita karma is destroyed after self-knowledge, but it's easier, it's more correct to say Sanchita karma is no longer produced after the self-knowledge, I am limitless consciousness. Why? Every action after self-knowledge does not contain that sense of doership and ownership. The sense of ownership and doership is what produces agami and sanchita karma. Therefore, we say that Vijnani no longer produce agami karma, no longer produce sanchita karma, which is an evolution, a byproduct of agami karma. The Yanni no longer produce those two levels of karmas, okay? But there is a third level which is called Parabodha karma. Parabodha karma is the fructification of our agami karmas, of our sanchita karmas. We put the karma remains suspended as agami. In due time, as sanchita, in due time it fructifies as Parabodha karma, okay? So Parabodha karma is our life situation on a day-to-day basis, present itself to us, and there is nothing wrong going on. We can never say, why me, this should not be happening or whatever, It's always correct because Ishvara is a system which is designed by pure knowledge intelligence. Its laws governs Nitya in a way that there is no human computer that could ever understand or really be able to follow this incredible karmic equation of Ishvara. So having been born in a body, the results of previous actions that fructify in this life, which can be exhausted only by suffering and enjoying them. Okay, we are born in a body. The results of previous actions, okay, from this life and from previous births, they will fructify in this life, and these results can be exhausted only by suffering or enjoying the results. So they are going to exhaust only by enjoy. If I'm fortunate enough to have an account, with a lot of punya and very little papa. But if I have an account with a lot of papa and little punya, yeah, and then there is no way around it. I need to exhaust my karma. I tend to say when there is a lot of papa, we can look in terms of having a lot of credit cards that they are, how you say, max out. In the United States, people max out their credit card. They're full of debts. If you have a lot of debts in your credit cards, so the first goal you have is, oh my God, there is no way around here. I need to pay my debts. I need to pay my debts. If we understand these laws, we would see it in the same way, like, oh, Ishvara, oh Lord, please, then bring it on. I want to pay my debts. I know that I can only exhaust my punya karmas by suffering those results, by embracing, receiving them with a certain attitude, which depends on this knowledge, understanding of this system. I receive them as prasad with a certain attitude, knowing that this is good spiritual work. That's when I like to say that suffering is also good, because it serves the purpose of exhausting papa. So the Sanchita / Prabhupada karma, all this Sanchita karma that somehow did not find enough time to fructify as Prabhupada karma, this Sanchita karma, it will determine when we leave the physical body, when the mind leaves the physical body, this Sanchita karma is going to determine our next birth, our next body, the shape of our body, the kind of family, the kind of culture, the environment that is suitable to my conditioning, my vasanas, okay, my karma, okay, my vasanas are nothing more with my punya papa on this unconscious level, those impressions which are results of my previous attitudes and actions and so on that are suspended there in this very subtle level, as subtle impressions, mental, emotional impressions. They are going to design, they are going to assemble, fabricate this new body. And not only it's going to pick up the proper environment, which is custom designed for my next stage of development. So if I need an environment which is really difficult, then I may die in a terrible environment with a lot of adversity and suffering, which is what I need in my process, because I need to exhaust my papa, I need to pay my debts. Whether the environment is pleasant or unpleasant is determined by the type of karmas I have in my account. Yeah? The law of karma and the three types of karmas explain the variety of diversity found in the human life, as well the nature in general. Some people are happy and some people are not. So we know by observation that we are not just a byproduct of genetics. There is much more to us than just the genes. So myself and my brother, we were born in the same household, the same dad, the same mother, the same school, the same friends. We are born 1 year apart from one another. He had a totally different temperament, a different personality, different tendencies. So he ended up being a very materialistic person, okay? And I end up just blowing everything and going to India and become a spiritual hippie. So why that? We are different because there is something we brought with us which is not just related to the genetics of our parents, okay? But it's related to our minds, our vasanas, our karmas. Just as the dreamer becomes free of all action he or she performed in a dreaming state, Yeah? So we were dreaming. We had done a lot of actions. We did a lot of bad actions. Okay? And then when we get up in the morning, we are like, oh my God, how could I have done that? You know? I'm really in big trouble because, you know, where I was in my mind, I went to the store with a plastic revolver and I robbed the store. And I'm sure that they are going to get to me sooner or later. There are cameras all over the place nowadays, you know? So where in my mind I could have had such a stupid idea. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God. Huh? And then immediately I start waking up and I say, oh, thank God, it was a dream. Okay? So just as the dreamer is free of all actions he did in a dream state, you know, which are performed on a waking up, the Jivanmukta, the realized soul, is free of all actions he did during those period of life that he was living under the influence of self-ignorance. Okay? Because those actions, they are neutralized by the means of this destruction of the identification as the jiva, the doer of actions, and the one that owns its results. The self-realized soul is free of sanchita and agami karma when he or she realizes the knowledge I am limitless consciousness and I am actionless, akarta. Even the prarabdha karma that will fructify does not affect him. This is a nice topic because here and there in the description that they say like there is only prarabdha karma for the yani. The meaning to say that the yani is no longer feeding the system with actions identified as the doer. Therefore, he's not feeding the system with more agami, and therefore there is not more sanchita karma being fed in the system, which is a development of agami action, agami karma. So it's not really doing any more of that because this identification as the doer was broken. His identity shift from the doer to consciousness. Okay, and then here and there in the scriptures we say that there is only prarabdha karma for the doer, for the yani. This is a good statement because it points to the fact that the yani cannot avoid prarabdha karma, because a lot of those actions that were present to the field in previous births, on these births before the jiva gained the self-knowledge, realized, recognized, appreciated its true nature, all those actions that were based on self-ignorance, not all of them have yet fructified. Therefore, we say that there is only prarabdha karma for the Jivanmukta, because, I mean, the best illustration of this fact is Ramana Maharaj having a cancer, a person who was a sage, a saint, you know, a beautiful being, so pure in motives and so on, and so luminous, touching the life of so many, you know, impacting positively the life of so many. But yet, at a certain age, he developed a cancer and he died in great pain. So where did that come from? That's where this statement helps us to understand it. There is only prarabdha karma for yani, actions that were placed in the past, previous incarnations, or in this incarnation, this birth before self-knowledge was firmly established. Those actions, they require some time to fructify, and the yani has to be receiving that. In the last few verses of the Viveka Shuddhamani, Shankara says, okay, so now that you have gained self-knowledge, go and live your life according to your prarabdha karma, okay? Just take your prarabdha karma as it comes. It seems to be contradictory, but there is no contradiction because, you know, receive your prarabdha karma unconcerned because they refer to the actions done by that jiva who was at the time identified as the doer, and now it's coming, fructifying, and you are the only one left to receive. That jiva is dead. Self-knowledge killed that jiva because that sense of I am the doer, the feeler, the receiver, that notion, that identity was destroyed. But you are the only guy that yet are going to receive that results of action. Therefore, there is still some parabodha karma for the yani. There is no agami, no sanshita, but there is parabodha karma. But if we really look more deeply into that statement, the yani has a capacity to receive his parabodha karma in such a way that he never takes it as it is my karma. So the sense of I am the owner of this karma, okay, is no longer present. It was also neutralized. Therefore, there is a sense of peace and immunity against whatsoever papakarma may be coming my way due to past actions for different reasons. For the complete knowledge, the knowledge of my nature as Satya, my nature as Ishwara, Mitya, and the Karma Yoga and so on. So all of that neutralizes the impact of adverse parabodha karmas and desirable circumstances, which are the fructifications of punya karmas. In either way, the yani just receive them with equanimity, without much excitement. Knowledge is the only means of realizing the self, just as fire is the only means to cook the food. Just as wood, fuel, etc., are required to set the fire, okay? Methods, teachings are required to prepare oneself for knowledge. Techniques, yoga is required, karma yoga is required to prepare the mind for self-knowledge. The same way wood, fuel, etc., and required to set up the fire to cook the food. It's a very nice metaphor that appeared on some of our Upanishads. The teachings for self-purification, self-refinement that result in development of the qualities described in these texts are called yoga, and I explained in the scriptures of Karma Yoga and Patanjali Yoga. Vedanta, the techniques used to gain self-knowledge are only 3. When we come to Vedanta, we are at the very, very last stage of our process. And rare are the individuals that come to Vedanta. When we come to Vedanta, we deal with only 3 techniques, okay? And they are again called Shravana, listening with a certain attitude, with a certain mental qualification, and attitude, listening, Shravana, and then hearing, Shravana, reflecting, Manana, okay? Manana is reflecting, contemplating, resolving my doubts, okay? And assimilation, which is Nididhyasana, that can be looked or understood also as a constant application of this knowledge against my life on a day-to-day, because this knowledge should not remain merely intellectual, on the intellectual level. It has to go roots to transform the individual, and the way we experience it has to transform our emotional personality as well, not only our intellectual personality, but our emotional personality. So those are the 3 sadhanas of Vedanta. When we come to Vedanta, we come to that. And of course, it includes Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is knowledge yoga. Okay? So we need to contemplate on the teachings of Karma Yoga because they are good purifiers of the mind. They refine the mind. And then Shravana is a great purifier. It accelerates this process of mental purification, refinement. and then reflecting, contemplating, and gradually assimilating, resolving all doubts, etc. Those are the Vedanta practices. For knowledge to be gained, one must first hear what it is. After hearing, one must contemplate, reflect, and inquire to see if what one has heard is true or not. Once one is convinced that what I heard makes sense, I have never heard something so clear and logic. I cannot object such a clear understanding, clear analysis of my experience of life. Once I'm fully convinced of this knowledge, okay, I need to live according to this truth. Otherwise, I'm committing what we call spiritual suicidal. Okay? Once we develop these qualifications, once we come to Vedanta, once we begin, we are clear about this, the truth presented by this analysis, of the Upanishads, of Vedanta, and so on. Once I'm fully convinced, I have a full value of self-knowledge and self-inquiry as presented by Vedanta as the most complete and extensive body of knowledge to produce liberation. Once I have that certainty, that trust, I need to live according to the knowledge. Otherwise, I will be betraying this knowledge. I will be committing spiritual suicidal. If a person believes that he or she is limited, inadequate, and incomplete, he or she lives life will never be a source of joy. However, if after long contemplation one fully acknowledges and accepts one's nature identity as whole, full, and complete, limitless, ever-present, ordinary consciousness, life will be a joyful passing time conditioned by freedom in the sense of limitlessness. And so we have ended our last class on Tattvabodha. And we made it right on time. Oh, I mean, this class is long, 2 hours on Vedanta like that is a bit intense for most of us. So we did it 6 o'clock, from 4 to 6. So we have completed our job. 2 announcements. Vidya has suggested a month or so ago to begin another group on a weekday in the evening. So we have picked up already. It's gonna be on Mondays. It's gonna be weekly, and it's going to be at 8 p.m. Okay, so we're about to decide what we're gonna unfold, what we're going to start in this Monday evenings. As soon as I have it all wrapped up, I will send an email to invite not only the Europeans, but people in the USA as well, who may have free time to join us, even if it's not evening there, it's maybe an afternoon or so, but people from other parts of the world may be able to join us, not only we from the old continent here. And we'll begin a class which is an unfoldment of our seminar in Carbondale, which was concluded a week ago. And Dave is organizing more or less this. And this is going to be every second week, and it's going to be on a Thursday. And it's going to be morning time in Carbondale. It's 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, Dave?
It's 8 a.m. in the morning in Colorado.
8 a.m. in the morning. So it is 4 p.m. in Italy, 4 in the afternoon here, or 3 in the afternoon in England. So that is, it's a class we will begin with our friends in Carbondale, but anybody having time can join us as well. Okay, so those are the new classes coming up.
And I'm just going to say, if they could send you, either you or to me, but if they send to you, I'll put them on the class list. So when I send out a invitation, it will go out to me.
I'm going to get your email and send to everybody, and then we see if there is some people interested. And then if people start coming, and then we add. Trudy may be very much interested because she's 1 hour behind Carbondale. She's in the West Coast up there in Canada. So she's used to get up at this time, 7. So we began today at 4 o'clock, which is the same time we will begin this class with the Carbondale Sangha. So definitely, Trudy may be interested.
Hope so.
Okay.
Well, possibly. You have to send out the schedule again. What day were you thinking, Dave? And what time?
As Evan said, we were thinking Thursdays, and it would be 8 o'clock Mountain Time.
8 in the evening. Is that daylight saving time?
No, it's 8 in the morning, sorry.
Morning.
The same time we began today, 7 in the morning at your place, Trudy.
On Thursday. Yeah, possibly.
Okay.
I'm trying to get up early. Last night I went to bed very late, so it was.
Okay, so we'll see. I mean, we have those 2 classes beginning, which are webinars. So this class that we have been doing on Sunday, we will stop because we did not find enough interest, and we go from there. So very soon, January, I'm going to India for 2 weeks. Webinar, a seminar, a live seminar on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. I'm very excited because I love the Gita, and it's the text I have unfolded the most. And so we have still some rooms available. It's gonna happen. The venue is a Ayurvedic healing center. It's a nice facility in an area that is unpolluted. We have the sea in front. And the sea, according to the people who have been there, is a clean sea that allows us to swim. So it's that's why I'm going back to India, because I have decided before not to go back to India. But these guys from Anatosh and other people from Germany and Amsterdam, they go there every year, and they convinced me to go there and put a Vedanta seminar into their own package, because they go there for having a good time, escaping the winter in Europe, and massages and treatments and Ayurveda. So now we're going to have Vedanta together with all of that. So it may be a very nice opportunity. Okay? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Arlindo.
Thanks, Arlindo.
thank you.
Thank you.
We talk later.
Thank you, Arlinda.
Thank you, Mark. Much love.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Arlindo. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.